On this episode of the Dubcast, part of the Roundball Australia podcast network, after a brief halt last week, the Poletti Revenge Tour resumes its regular programming in a 3-0 victory for the Melbourne Victory over Perth Glory. Elsewhere, Rebekah Stott has been absent from the football Ferns, and Michael Mayne made some more comments on Stott's absence after the game last night. We'll break all of those down in detail, while Sam Kerr said that she wanted to play longer, but the decision was taken out of her hands by the medical team in Australia's 2-0 win over New Zealand. We've got former Matildas making international debuts for other countries, and we've got some age group results to talk about on this episode of the Dubcast. My name is Poletti. Joining me, as always, is Burke. And look, for the listeners, it's been about 24 hours, but for the two of us, it's been about 12 since we last spoke.
Yeah, just like such a long time, really. Like I was saying, I'd almost forgotten what you'd look like. It's been so long.
Look, I wouldn't blame you for wanting to forget what I look like anyway. Be positive about yourself, everyone. Be positive about yourself. Self-positivity. Only I can talk negative about myself because you know what, whatever. It's fine. Just be positive about yourselves. It's worth it. Self-improvement is good. Trust me. But as always, well, I'd say usually we start with our big storyline, but I don't think there's anywhere big to start because there was one A-League women game because it was an international break. The lone game that didn't end up getting rescheduled was Melbourne Victory 3, Perth Glory 0. When we spoke and recorded last week, Sydney FC was still set to travel to the nation's capital, and that game ended up getting postponed because, well, what do you know? When you have 7 international call-ups for a side and a handful of injuries, maybe you shouldn't be playing football.
Yeah, probably not. The right decision prevailed in the end for that one.
It took a lot longer than it should have, but
Yeah,
yes.
but honestly, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I understand there's a lot to like configure with getting games played, especially when you have teams like Perth being so far away. But I think I think Perth and I guess Victory were pretty hard done by having to play this game this weekend. Perth especially, I feel, mostly because I think they could just use a break.
Yep. Yeah, so as I said, Melbourne Victory 3, Perth Glory 0. Kennedy White, Sophia Sakalis, and Rihanna Policina, the goal scorers, all coming inside the first half. We'll start with the Perth Glory first. They were just not at the races. This is their 4th away trip in the space of 5 weeks. So they've crossed the country multiple times because all of these away games have been on the East Coast. It's been a slog for the Perth Glory. They start the season off with a win against the Western Sydney Wanderers to open the season after a lightning delay. They travel home to play a 4 p.m. local time Friday game against the Roar, in which they lose. They then come back to Sydney, have to sit through another lightning delay, then travel back home, travel to Canberra, get beaten by Canberra, who put in a comprehensive and clinical performance, travel back home, then travel back to play Melbourne Victory, because as we know, these players aren't full-time. If this was a men's team, they probably just would have stayed on the East Coast for the 2-week period for Sydney away, Canberra away, and Melbourne Victory away. But these players have jobs, so that's not exactly possible. So a lot of travel in the legs, navigating this vast country that we have. They've got the bye next week. And yes, because of the lopsided start to the season where they play a lot of their games away from home, they're going to have a backlog of home games. But yes, by this week to work on things, but I fear it might be a little too late already, and we're only in round 5.
Yeah, but I mean the other really annoying thing is that yes, Perth Glory are in round 5, but Melbourne City have only played 2 games.
Yes.
Like we just and like some teams like Phoenix, Jets, Raw, Adelaide, they've all only played 3 games. So we, because of all of these, like, well, this round really, you don't really know how everything's going to play out because you have teams that are going to be playing catch up for quite some time. So there's no, way to really tell how this is going to affect their chances at finals. Because, like, yes, they have a goal difference of -7, but other teams could, end up shipping even more goals when they're playing, the
Yep.
rest of the games they have to play. So it's a very odd season, this one so far, just because of having the buys again and because of whatever's happened here.
International
In
breaks, Women's Champions League, all those sorts of
Yeah,
fun things. Like,
yeah, it's fun, but at great cost
yes.
because now
So
the math is not mathing at
no,
all.
so Melbourne Victory and Perth Glory are the only two sides to have played in all 5 rounds so far, and it's going to be a long time with rescheduling before we catch up and get people near where they need to be. Um, with all those sorts of things. I mean, as you said, Melbourne City have only played 2 games, and they're in the top 6. So that says a lot of where the competition is at to start the season. Yeah, I mean
So, like, yes,
it's
it does look like it's kind of over right now for Perth, but because they're going to have, well, because they've knocked out quite a few of their away trips already, we may, like, it may be like in 3 or 4 weeks from now, we may just be saying they're so back. Like, you, we just don't know. But yeah, the performance that they put on in the first half was not it. Not it. Don't play like that again, guys.
so they've got the bye, as we've already touched on, and then their next 2 games are at home. They host the Wellington Phoenix, and then they host Adelaide United. Both sides who are performing somewhat well to start the season, I'd say. Adelaide United have 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. Wellington Phoenix, 1 win, 2 draws, no losses through their 3 games. I mean, it seems like it could be a good opportunity for Perth to, kick things back in a gear with 2 games, and then, if they get wins in both of those, they're 7 points. They're probably back in and around the conversation of the top 6. They arrest some of that goal difference, and as you said, maybe we're having a different conversation in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, they've got to get something out of these 2 fixtures. Like, just because I think it's bad for team morale if they can't get a win in 5 or 6 games. So, or a draw even. Like, they need something. Yeah.
Yep, they do indeed. On the Melbourne Victory side of things, 3 goals inside the first half. A pretty good quality performance. 21 shots, 9 on target. They had 5 shots blocked. I mean, 6 big chances, 2.91 xG. Like, this was, from start to finish, this was all Melbourne Victory.
Yeah, just one-way traffic. I think Perth did, well, I think it was a combination of things in the second half that Victory were kind of like, you know what, we're up by 3. We can hold off a little, like we can ease off. And then I think Perth did a better job defensively in the second half. But yeah, this really was just the Melbourne Victory show. Like you said in the intro, the revenge tour continues. Policina, I fear she will end up scoring against every single club in the league. And then Sakala's getting her first goal as well, for Victory. And was it her first goal? I feel like I saw it said that it was her first goal. And then, yeah, Kennedy White scoring. A likely thing for her to do at this rate.
What a shock.
Yeah, I was stunned to get the notification on my phone at the time. I was like, oh, Victory have scored. Oh, it's Kennedy White. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure.
Seems like a likely thing for her to be doing. On Melbourne Victory still on this game, club debut for Taylor Ray after having to miss the first 4 games with the lingering injury issue. She got 18 or so minutes off the bench, but good time to be making a club debut.
Yeah, definitely. She could, like, it's kind of scary to say this, but she could really elevate their game. How much how much higher can they get? They're currently top of the table, obviously, but they are 3 wins, 2 losses. So they need it's round 5. They don't really need to do anything. Not like Perth Glory needs to do something, but if they can kind of stop losing, obviously it's like 2 losses, but still, like, that's 2 losses. That's 6 points dropped.
Yeah.
So if they can, yeah, focus, if they can really kind of hone in on securing wins and not losses, I think Taylor Ray can help with that. It'll be interesting to see how they employ her on the pitch. I know we discussed this like in length in the previews and everything, but it'll be interesting now to actually get to see it. Yeah.
It will be indeed. Look, I know last year's ladder is not necessarily an indication of future performance, but it was like, if memory serves me correctly, it was 2 points was the margin
Yeah.
between Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory off the top of my head. They've already dropped those points. That's not coming back.
No.
If the margins are going to be this tight again this year, they really probably can't afford to lose another game.
Yeah, because if City continue winning, obviously we haven't seen them play league football in a hot minute.
About a month, actually.
Hot minute. But yeah, if they continue to win and to avoid like losing all of the points in the games, then they're gonna end up unable to be caught again. Yeah. So Victory, yeah, maybe I was wrong. They do need to really keep winning. Yeah, any further point losses is they'll be saying goodbye to the top of the table if City hold out their form.
Yeah. So Melbourne Victory have quite a busy next few weeks. So they host Canberra on Friday night, then it's hosting Adelaide, then it's away to the Jets, away to Melbourne City, so it's not really an away trip. And then it's away to the Mariners, followed by their bye at the start of January. So they've got a busy 5 weeks ahead of them. So it'll be interesting to see how things go there for the Victory. But that is the A-League Women wrap for this week. Only the one game to talk about. And look, obviously everyone's been paying attention to the Matildas over the last week as well. If you want to hear our thoughts on Tuesday night's game, you can click here to do so. We sat down immediately after the game, but we're just going to break down a little bit more of some of the comments to come out post game from that match, from the press conferences. Sam Kerr. So we'll start with the Aussies. She said that she wanted to play longer, but the decision was taken out of her hands by the medical team to only play 45 minutes. She was, warming up on the sideline. She was ready to come back out for the second half and was told, "Sorry, you need to rest because of that calf complaint that John Montemurro talked about on Friday night." She also said that if the first game was Saturday, she said she probably would have played. So it was just really the wrong time, for this grumbly calf, I think was the term that Montemurro used to describe it, to flare up. And Kerr also said that she planned to come in and play 2 full 90 minutes in this camp, but obviously things happened preventing that. We talked about how good Kerr was, in her 45 minutes. She's heading back to Europe. She's probably going to play. She'll play some minutes for Chelsea. She'll then get the Christmas break, so it's a 2-week rest for her before it's like a month and a half then before the Asian Cup team will be coming into camp, give or take roughly. Squad selection, I assume, will be made around that time as well, or at least publicly announced anyway. So she's going to get the chance to rest, heal up a little bit, and get the minutes into her legs before the Asian Cup, which based on the 45 minutes we saw on Tuesday night,
It's good.
that's a scary sight.
It's good. Although I will say I don't believe she's actually got that much rest planned for those 2 weeks because I believe she's getting married at the end of this month. So she'll be
She
coming
won't
back.
be playing, and she might not be training. That's
Yes.
what I'll say.
She'll be coming back to Perth and yeah, having a grand old time getting married. I feel like it's New Year's Eve or something. I feel like that's what I heard. But yeah, so there may not be too much rest in that period. There'll be a little bit of partying instead. And you know what? As she should.
Hey,
As
that
she should.
partying can mean mental health rest, and that is important. Dealing with burnout is important. I remember after, I want to say it was after the World Cup, the team and Gustafsson chose not to play the September window to give the players a chance to rest after the exhausting World Cup. So it's smart. You need that mental health break. Burnout is real, folks.
It is.
Believe me, burnout is real.
So, but yeah, I think, Sam will be looking fit and firing for the Asian Cup, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing it.
Yep, I am as well. We've got to talk about the other side of things, the New Zealand side of things. So we'll start with the first part of Michael Mayne's presser, and then we'll get on to the second part of it, which has been a big talking point around Australian football in the last few weeks. But first part of it, he said that he was proud of the group sticking to their game plan, and that he was happy with the shift that they made during the window, that they were able to execute their game plan. Maybe not as well as they wanted to, but they were able to work on things. They were able to improve and sort of, work towards those World Cup qualifiers, which are coming up in the February-March window for them. And then in the April window, it will be the semi-final and the final of those qualifiers in the OFC. So they'll have their qualification window done with over a year to go once again. I don't think any of us see New Zealand not making the World Cup in the next two windows, right?
Yeah, no, I would be stunned if they didn't. Yeah.
And so just on that note, New Zealand football announced this morning that the semi-final and the final of those of that qualification window will take place in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So they'll be playing home games for what I actually think is the first time since the World Cup.
Literally at long last, at long last. They've really done their fans a bit dirty, honestly, because we've been playing in Australia pretty much as much as they can physically handle playing in Australia. So yeah, I do feel for the fans, the football fans that have had to wait so long for their team to come back and play in front of them. But I'm glad they haven't let another opportunity to play in front of their fans slip away. So yeah.
Yep. That might actually be something worth discussing later on, maybe around the next window. With someone who is actually based in New Zealand, because obviously we're based on this side of the ditch as opposed to that side. So if that's something you want to see in a future episode, please get in the comments. Let us know. We want to deliver content that you all want to hear and see and enjoy. So if that's something you want, get in the comments. Let us know. But we need to talk about the Rebekah Stott part of this press conference as well. And Jacob and I discussed that on Saturday, coming out of the 5-0 win. But so if you want to go have a look at that, you can click here. But I mean, Michael Mayne on Friday said that she knows what she needs to do. Any player that's not here has got the feedback they need. When asked why he chose not to select Rebekah Stott for this window, and he was asked on Tuesday night, to perhaps elaborate on that a little bit, and we'll play that for you now.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I think the question, it wasn't just Stotty. I think we've done a good job to shift internally our processes so that players are getting the feedback they need. we have a really, I think, strong campaign plan that takes us through to 27 but beyond. That needs clarity for players. I think, like I said the other night, it's not just Stoddy, there's other players that they have the feedback in terms of where we're at, what we're trying to shift, what they can do. So it's different for each player. I can't elaborate because that's a conversation between me and players. But what I'd say is, like, Stoddy's a class player. She's been around this team for a long time. There's other players that aren't here as well that have put a lot of blood, sweat and tears into that shirt. As you can probably see, like even tonight, some of it because we had to manage some players, but I haven't been afraid to kind of change that team up and test them at the highest level. And that's probably where we're at in our program. Is this year was a big piece around understanding what we've got in that wider squad, and it's just there's things that me and Stoddy have discussed around where she's at and what she needs to do, and it's the same for every player. So I think, again, it's part of our process. It's giving players the information they need, and then we get another window and we see what happens.
Burke, I mean, look, like he said, he's saying all the right things. That they've done a good job internally. They're shifting the processes so that players are getting the feedback they need. That they've got the plan in place for their run into the 2027 World Cup in Brazil, pending qualification. But as we've just touched on, we both think they're going to get there. And beyond the World Cup as well in terms of that plan. He can't elaborate on the specific conversation, but also talked about her being a class player, has been around the team for a long time. Like he's saying all the right things, but I don't know, something about this just feels off.
Yeah, I feel like the language choices here were very interesting because he's talking about how the players know what they need to do. I personally can't think of anything else Rebekah Stott can do to kind of, elevate her game or change her game. She's been playing with Melbourne City for years now. She's playing Champions League football, Asian Champions League football, and getting player of the match performances. I think we wouldn't be really having this conversation if he had have chosen to speak about it differently, if he had have framed it as saying, we're looking at new options, but players like Stoddy are still in the conversation, obviously, and we're wanting to try out new players because we know what Rebekah Stott can offer us, then we wouldn't be talking about this. But because he's said, that they've gotten the feedback that they need to know what they need to do, it just feels very, very weird. Because what can Rebekah Stott do?
I mean, she's a FIFA listed best defender. Like, that's.
Does she need to learn another language? Does she need to get further information on spotting drones? Does she need to improve there? What?
I honestly don't know. Like she is literally one of the best defenders in world football, and it seems crazy to be saying that about an A-League women's player, but she is literally one of the best defenders in world football. I don't quite understand it either. And look, he did say that there are other players who are in the same sorts of situations as Rebekah Stott, but I mean some of those are kind of puzzling as well. Look, I'm sure, as he said, he's got his plan. It's been ticked off by New Zealand football as to what they're going to do. Maybe with Annalie Longo's retirement, that maybe opens up a spot for Stott. Yep. A spot for Stott to play as like a number 6 and maybe less as a centre back and sort of bring in that leadership experience that way. But I'm not convinced her playing at the base of midfield is the right way for her to go. Like she is an out-and-out centre back. She's one of the best in the world. Look, as I said, I'm sure Michael Mayne has got a plan, but even if that plan isn't necessarily revealed to the rest of us, this whole situation does seem kind of bizarre. I mean, she's been in one camp since he became coach. Yeah, look,
doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel
No,
good.
it doesn't.
I could not think of a worse decision personally if I was a coach for the football ferns than not picking Stoddy when it comes to like these qualifying games. Obviously, New Zealand are still playing in Oceania, still playing. New Zealand are playing in Oceania, so they don't face as, I guess, threatening teams as we do in Asia with like Japan and China and North Korea and that. But yeah, not having like stalwart player in when know you need to get results doesn't make sense to me. So if I don't see her on that squad list for those games, I'm gonna be very concerned and very upset, honestly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything you said. Now, I know that they have started, the OFC has started its World Cup qualification campaign. So I'm looking that up now, but while I wait for the pages to load, Laura Hughes, who made the decision to play for Wales, made her debut for Wales on Tuesday night, Australian Eastern Daylight Time, in a game against Switzerland, coming on at halftime. And yeah, I mean, from what I heard, she had a pretty decent performance in those 45 minutes. I haven't seen the game, obviously, but that's what I've heard. And another player lost.
Yeah, I like she had a good performance, a likely thing for Laura Hughes to do. Oh, man. Congratulations to her for her debut. I'm still mad about it. And I'm still mad about how I managed to basically call it, but not really call it right before it happened. That was very
Yeah.
annoying. But yes, congratulations to her.
Yeah. So on that what is it, the preliminary round of qualification kicked off this window. So American Samoa defeated Tonga 3-0. Cook Islands defeated Tahiti 1-0. So Tonga and Tahiti are out after just one game of qualification. American Samoa defeated Cook Islands 4-0 to advance to the qualification round, which will take place in the February-March window. Two groups there, and then the winners of those group will face the runners-up of the opposite group. So Group A winner will play the Group B runner-up, and then the Group B winner will face the Group A runner-up, and then the winners of those will play the final for the direct qualification spot to the 2027 World Cup, while the loser of that will head to the FIFA Intercontinental Playoff Tournament to take place before the World Cup as well. There was also we also saw the Junior Matildas, the under-17s, in action throughout this window. We talked about their 2-0 loss to Thailand on last Tuesday night, so not the Tuesday we just had, the one before that. In our last episode, they also played before the Senior Matildas did in Gosford. That was a 1-1 draw. And the Young Matildas are also in action in South Korea. Those games, so it's against South Korea in Canberra. Those games behind closed doors. 1-0 victory on Friday for the Young Matildas. The lone goal being scored by Sky Halmarik. And then it was a 4-1 win on the Sunday. Avani Prakash, Grace Kwalamu, Josie Allen, and Daniela Galich scoring the goals for Australia. A little bit disappointed we didn't get to see these games because, as we touched on when the squad list was announced, this was a stacked squad. And I believe the next time we are going to get to see them will... I mean, I imagine they're probably going to play some games in the February window, but if we don't, the next time we're going to get to see them will be the Under-20s Asian Cup in April.
Well, fingers crossed for February because I want to see this team. I would
Yes.
show them to me. I would like to see. Yeah, I would love to be able to comment on this game and discuss this game, but there is no game really for us to discuss. If a game happens behind closed doors, does a game happen at all? You know, just if a tree falls down in the forest, if no one's around
Yep.
to hear it, like, I want to see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
At least
No,
show me the goals. Like, man.
yeah. No, I completely agree. I want to see it as well, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, is the situation. Yeah, the hand with which we are dealt. But we look ahead now to round 6 question mark of the A-League Women.
Something.
Is it really round 6 if everyone's all over the place? But no, it is the nominal round 6. We start with Melbourne Victory versus Canberra on Friday night at the home of the Matildas, 7 p.m. kickoff. Burke, your prediction?
I think it's going to be victory.
I
But I
see a
don't
draw.
think, I was going to say, I don't think Canberra are going to make it easy for them.
No, I think this will very much be a draw. I think both these sides have looked good so far, and I think this is going to be a very good, probably low-scoring game. Central Coast Mariners then host the Newcastle Jets at 5 p.m. on Saturday. Whether that game goes ahead is anyone's guess at this point, because I've seen the weather forecast for the east coast of New South Wales, and this game is part of a doubleheader, so you can't exactly push it back. I'm not convinced as things stand that this game will go ahead based on the weather forecast that I've seen. But I mean, at the moment, as of the time of recording, it's scheduled. So, prediction, please, Burke.
This is a tough one because the Jets haven't, like, they've been winning games, but they haven't been winning by a lot. And we know, well, Central Coast can score lots of goals when they want to. I think it's going to be a draw. I think this one's going to be a draw.
Yep. No, I think that is I think that's the way I would go with it if this game takes place at its scheduled time. I think the heat will play a factor. I think I think this is going to be a very slow game. I've just pulled up the weather forecast while you were talking. At the scheduled kickoff time of 5 p.m, it is supposed to be 33 degrees in Gosford. So
I think the real winner is going to be the weather. Yay!
Yeah.
Climate change.
We then head to Sunday. Melbourne City host the Wellington Phoenix at 3 p.m. at Casey Fields. I'd asked why we're kicking off at 3 p.m. in summer, but I know why we're kicking off at 3 p.m. in summer, and I think Melbourne has actually gotten quite lucky because if I remember the forecast properly, it's actually supposed to be quite cold again this weekend. Summer hasn't quite hit Melbourne yet.
It's taking its time. Like right now, it's quite lovely. And I think tomorrow the weather's meant to be like crazy hot. Yeah, it's meant to get up to 29 today at time of recording, 33 on Thursday, and then it drops off quite a bit.
Compared to what I'm supposed to get on Friday and Saturday, I think I'd take that 33 and run with it.
Oh, I will be. I'm going to a concert. It's going to be outdoors. I'm very happy.
But the game itself, Melbourne City versus Wellington Phoenix, the first time we will see Melbourne City in league action for a month.
Yeah, I think it's going to go City's way.
I could sneakily see the Phoenix nabbing a draw here. I could sneakily see them nabbing a draw.
Yeah, I mean, we say these things, but the league does what it wants, doesn't it?
It does. This has been well established that these predictions are worth diddly squat, and so, you know, if you're watching trying to get some massive insight for any financial gain, don't take anything we say seriously.
Please do not bet based off of anything that I say, especially. Please. I will not be held liable for your financial ruin. Please.
Yep. We then head to Hindmarsh Stadium, Adelaide United facing Brisbane Roar. This game also part of a doubleheader, a 4:20 p.m. local time kickoff, but the weather is much like Melbourne, supposed to be cool. So a couple of bullets have been dodged there in terms of the doubleheader scheduling and some weird kickoff times. But Adelaide versus Brisbane, Burke, your prediction?
I think I'm going to go Brisbane.
Yeah, I agree. I see Brisbane travelling and getting the win here. And then we head to Marconi Stadium for the Western Sydney Wanderers versus Sydney FC in the Women's Sydney Derby at 5 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Burke, your prediction?
I I think it'll be Sydney. I want it to be Western Sydney, but I think it'll be Sydney.
Look, if recent form is any indication, I see absolutely no reason it won't be Sydney FC. And when I say recent form, I mean recent form in this fixture. I don't have the numbers up in front of me at the moment, but I remember when we were doing the podcast last season, we were talking about this, and it was before COVID that the Wanderers last won a women's Sydney derby. They do not win these fixtures. Like this is Sydney FC's game to lose. I like this Wanderers side a bit better than I have Wanderers sides past, but there's just something about this game that Sydney get up for, and the Wanderers just not that they're unable to get up for it, but they just are struggling to get over the hump of being able to beat their crosstown rivals.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so those are our predictions for round 6 of the A-League Women. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Dubcast, part of the Roundball Australia Podcast Network. We'll be back next week to chat all things round 6, any other storylines that pop up around Australian women's football. But for Burke, my name is Poletti. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week in our regularly scheduled Wednesday slot.